I'm Grandmaster Bryan Smith. We're here to analyze this. And we're seeing the game between a player named Randy Bradshaw and Arjun. And Randy Bradshaw started off with e4. Arjun played e5. Okay, so far good. Knight f3, knight c6, d4. So white went for a Scotch game. E takes d4. And c3. So this is the Scotch gambit, which is not really a very popular opening. Well, mostly because black can take the pawn, or black can give or refuse the gambit and get a good game. So it's more common to take this pawn back with the knight, or play bishop c4, also a move. Okay, so c3 he played, and now black played a surprising move here. This is a very open game, so you need to develop your pieces quickly. Black played knight to e7, knight g to e7, and this it looks like too risky, blocking the development. And yeah, he doesn't want to play knight f6 because why'd you play knight g to e7, by the way?
I didn't want it to get attacked on f6.
Yeah, that's a good point. Knight f6, e5 would attack the knight. But there are other possible moves. So there's a reason not to play knight f6, but it's not really a reason to play knight e7 because this move is too slow a development, and if you're not careful here, white would get a strong attack and at least gets the pawn back. One thing black could do would be this move. If you want to play it safe and not take the pawn, you can play this. Because after takes, queen takes, and if white takes the pawn back, black gets easy development, knight f6, and if white's knight goes, if white's knight goes there, what do you think black would do? Any ideas? Pin it, yeah. You don't want to move the queen because then d5 would come. It's really important in open positions to get your pieces out as fast as possible. So that's one way that you can decline the gambit. You can also capture the pawn, and then there's different ways you can play, like bishop b4, I guess, d6. I don't know this opening very well, but it's not supposed to be too...
White gains some tempo by advancing the knight and taking the...
Yeah, white sacrificed the pawn. White gained a lead in development, but black has a pawn. So it's, you know, and black should be able to take this pawn and survive. It's been played lots of times. But if you don't want to deal with white's initiative, which could be dangerous, maybe, but you know, it's not. It's a more practical problem than a real problem. You can play this move, which is another reason why this opening isn't so popular, because I mean, black just destroys white's center and equalizes real quickly this way. And if white pushes pawn by, then taking on c3, and I mean, now the center's closed, so and there's nothing on this a2 to g8 diagonal, so that's good for black. But knight to e7, it's too slow development, I think. Now white just played this move, and I don't like this move because the bishop is bishop's pretty passive there. I mean, it's better to, and it allows black to play d5 easily. It's better to bring it to this, if you want to keep offering the pawn, to bring it to this diagonal. And now there are ideas like queen to b3 coming, you know, or knight e5 and knight g5 in some cases, and also just taking the pawn back, and white's ready to castle as well. So this looks pretty dangerous for black. I think if, say, black goes knight there, now we just take the pawn back, and black doesn't have a counterattack in the center with d5. So white's got a strong pawn center, and this knight maybe not so well placed on g6. And so it looks pretty good for white. But if black takes the pawn, then probably something like queen to b3, attacking f7, threatening checkmate. That looks dangerous. Or white could just take the pawn back as well, you know, and continue like a gambit. So, but bishop d3, it's a little bit passive. And now, a kind of strange move, I think, g6, because again, I mean, it's not too bad after bishop d3, but I would rather, since white played this passive move, I think you can just continue with your plan. Take the pawn, and then knight to g6 and get ready to develop in castle. And white doesn't have enough compensation for the pawn. Okay, so g6. White decided now to take the pawn back. Another thing black could do is d5 too. Just this is a move I want to play as black because it clears out the center and it gets rid of white's space advantage. But okay, so g6. So he wants to fianchetto his bishop. Now white took the pawn. Okay, d5. This was a very good move. d5. This move, d5, is a very good move. Okay, Arjun, very good, because this counters his strong center and it forces him to either advance and block things up and also leave this pawn on d4 behind, or lets you capture at some point and then put pressure on an isolated pawn on d4. So white decided to advance, which looks natural, but pawn on d4 is really going to be kind of, I mean, also white's structure isn't too threatening, so maybe white should consider just playing knight to c3, for instance, and then after takes, knight takes, we're aiming at f6, and then after this, maybe white can develop quickly like that, and try to. He's got a weak pawn on d4. It's true, but he's aiming at f6, and he's got black can even take that pawn, but then there's going to be a check on f6, and black's going to be have to give up to bishop. So. Okay, black can castle there. He also could play bishop g7 again here. Okay, so white played e5. And now, okay, e5, bishop g7. And I think bishop g5 is asking a little too much of the position here. We don't know where the bishop is going to be best. Probably better to just bring the knight to c3, or even, you know what else? This pawn on d4 has been left behind, so black might be putting big pressure on it by bishop g4, pinning the knight. And it might be a good idea to just stop the pin by playing h3. Or just castle, and then, yeah. Okay, so white played bishop g5. And black castled. And white castled. And here, h6. So Arjun, why did you play h6? Right. Okay. But if you threaten the bishop, but is he going to overlook the bishop being threatened? Like, is he going to leave your bishop? Was there any? I mean, your opponent, I don't know, he's 900 or something. But still, do you think there's any chance he would do like knight c3? No. So then you have to ask yourself, I threaten his bishop. Okay, he's going to move the bishop away. But does this move actually help me? And I don't think it really does, because. I think it weakens your king. Just like after this move, which he played, I don't think g5 really helps you that much. And he also could just go somewhere else, like to e3 or something like that. And this move opens the king a little bit. Then later on, maybe he'll attack the pawn with queen to d2 and gain a move. Also, pushing f6 later on might be a little harder to do. So I'm not sure about it. I think that. I mean, it's not too bad, but in general, you don't want to do a move just to threaten one of your opponent's pieces, only if it helps you when they make the best move in reply. So I'm thinking this move. What does he do after this? Black's threatening. Do you see what black's threatening? What's black threatening? Yeah, he's pinning the knight, but what's he threatening to do? Yeah, knight takes d4. Now he might not, I mean, he might see that too. He probably will, right? But then the thing is, even if he sees that, he has to waste a move guarding that pawn, right? He has to either retreat his bishop here, or maybe go with his bishop back here. But one way or another, you get to develop your bishop, and he has to retreat and guard that pawn. And in general, you want to put pressure on this pawn over there. After this, now maybe you could unpin your own knight, and you're ready to go knight f5, for instance, and put even more pressure on that. But there's different things black could do. Okay, you went h6 because you wanted to chase his bishop away, which it is natural, but I think that chasing the bishop away kind of opens up your own king. So he decided to go here, and then you went g5, which also, you might regret that now, but he was provoked here. And he went and sacrificed a piece, and now it started to get really interesting. Sometimes someone does a move like this, and it allows a person to sacrifice for 2 pawns and opens up the king. is it good or not? But it always depends on, you got to look ahead and see, is white going to be able to bring up enough attackers? In this case, I don't think white had enough attackers. So he should, I think, instead after g5, just probably move the bishop here. Now, these moves black might end up regretting this, because maybe white will attack with h4 sometime, or various other things white can use because these pawns can't go backward. So I think that, well, it's not terrible. I mean, maybe you can do this or something like that. But I think that you're gonna, like, those pawns pushed forward on your king side, it's gonna be a long-term, problem. Okay, so he went and took the pawn though. So g5, he took with the knight. Okay. Black took back, good. Bishop takes, and now you made a very good move. You went f6. So white, it looks like a very scary attack. White's going queen h5 and then checkmate on h7, right? And there's pin on this knight, so black can't easily go bishop f5 to oppose the bishop. And also, even if this didn't work somehow, white would also have a backup plan of f4, f5, f6, that type of thing, advancing the pawn. And then this knight can also come in, knight e2, knight f3, and so on. So it looks very scary, but once black creates some defensive lines and gets his pieces over, then, and also breaks this pin, it changes completely, and it's a different situation. So he took on f6. What would you do if white went queen h5? Did you see that move?
Yes, sir.
What would you do after that? Because does anyone see what happens if black takes the bishop? What does white do here?
Queen h7.
Queen h7, king f7, and the king runs away.
No, but then he takes the bishop.
Hmm?
After he plays bishop g6.
Bishop g6, what can happen if a bishop g6? Yeah, knight takes. Now white could go back with queen h5 and maybe king e6, but in any case, white doesn't win for sure. Okay, maybe, but even after queen h5, king e6, I think black is safe. So you can block with a knight on f5 if the queen goes to g4. But there's a better move here. We don't need to go looking. So when you got this position on the board, let's say you have the white pieces, and you got this position on the board, and you're thinking what to do. Do you jump into queen h7 and start trying to look 10 moves ahead to see if you win? Because that's not the only move, queen h7. There's another move here. See a good move for white? Well, queen g5, that's not really where we want the queen. And also now black could do this and offer a trade of queens. Yeah, bishop h7. Now this, so if you've seen this pattern, next time it's going to be a lot easier to find it. Bishop h7. Instead of the queen check, we check with the bishop, which doesn't look as dangerous. But the problem is that king can't get away, right? So king has to go where? Where can the king go? It has to go to h8. And now how do we win? Bishop g6 check. So we've moved our bishop to get to the g6 square. Black can't take it because he's in check. Bishop h6 doesn't do any good because the queen takes, right? So black has to go to g8 and then queen to h7, right? So now that you've seen this pattern, you should be able to see bishop h6 much quicker. But if you haven't seen it before, it's a little harder because your first impulse is to check with the queen. But then again, also, when you're playing chess, just because a move seems obvious at first doesn't mean you should just jump into it and start trying to think 5 moves ahead and trying to figure out, because there might be another move which would be, completely obvious once you see it that it's the right move, So anyway, but what should black do? He can't take the bishop, so what should black do after queen h5? If white played queen h5. Yeah, bishop f5, very good. You got to neutralize this bishop from d3. And then that's going to be like the game. Okay, so instead of queen h5, which I suspect white would have played if he saw it, he took on f6. It doesn't make much difference now, as long as black finds the best defense. He takes f6, bishop takes f6. now queen h5. White really has to do something to you know, get some attack going, because white's down a piece for 2 pawns. And that's really only 1 point of material, but it's more than that, because if white doesn't get something going, black's going to even use the open files on the king side. Not only up in material, but we'll use the open files on the king side to start an attack. Plus this pawn on d4 is isolated and weak. So queen h5. Okay. Now Arjun played a move which wasn't quite the best. What do you think black should do here? Bishop f5, yeah. I mean, this move, and now the key is to get rid of that bishop that's on d3, which is a strong attacker. So I don't see anything for white here, really. Bishop takes, knight takes, queen g6 check, knight g7. And there's no way through. d4 is falling. White's pieces are just getting traded off. So he actually played knight f5, which just a second might not be bad either, but it might. It looks like now white has at least a draw. Okay. In fact, yes. Queen g6 check, right? Now the difference is knight g7 doesn't work, right? What does black do? Or what does white do, rather? Any ideas? Or at least it looks really dangerous. In fact, it actually just, it's too dangerous to play this, I think. What could white do here? The difference compared to the other one is these two bishops, right? So now white still has a bishop on d3, which means he can check. And now we didn't have the same thing as before. There was no queen wasn't on h5, but anyway, so king f7, right? And now I suppose bishop to g6. I mean, white has at least a draw here, and probably way more. Bishop to g6. What if the king goes here? What does white do now? Anyone see? Take the knight, because that bishop's pinned. So black has to run up here, and he's really running the gauntlet here now, or running the whatever. Now king e6, rook e1 check, for instance. I don't know. There's lots of different moves, but look at the king running around there. I think that black definitely, I mean, for instance, king here, we got check, right? And if the king goes here, we got this check. And then it's trying to be checkmate. And if black puts a piece on e5, white will take it. So so that means that black can't block, so he went king h8, which is right. Okay, but now white made a mistake. He said, okay, I can take this knight. So anyway, but the difference here is that these bishops were not traded. So what's the lesson we learn? When you're defending, you want to try to trade off attacking pieces. So when Arjun had the choice of two ways to stop queen h7 here, okay, bishop f5 or knight f5, bishop f5, bringing out a new piece and trading off stuff was better than knight f5, which left white with a strong attacker, versus the bishop on c8, which is sitting at home. So just in principle, I mean, bishop f5 would be the natural move. Okay, knight f5, queen g6, king h8, he played the right move. And now white decided to try to take his piece back. But he didn't see something, he missed something tactically. He saw that two pieces are attacking this knight. Bishop on d3 and the queen on g6. Only this bishop is guarding it. However, he didn't see that this is white's bishop on g5 is also under attack. So he probably confused himself with the tactics and thought, well, bishop takes, queen takes, but then bishop takes g5. So what white should have done is just gone here and make a draw. Okay, because if the king goes back here, okay, and he's down a piece, so he should take a draw. And if the king goes up here, anyone see what, this would be a mistake. Anyone see what white would do? Bishop h6, yeah. And if black takes, queen g6 and queen h7, right? And if the king goes back somewhere, like here, then what? You could take the rook, right? Just simply take the rook, and now this is under attack too. So we're going to win a piece. Okay, I mean, white wins a whole rook actually, and was down a piece. So white's up 2 pawns in the exchange, and of course you can't go to the h file because white will just take that rook for free. Okay, so black would have to go back to g8 and then check, and it should be white should make a draw, but instead. No, he either didn't see that or he missed. He thought he could do better, so he took here. And now black took back. Very good. Okay, because checkmate on h7 otherwise. And now queen takes, but now bishop takes. And still, it looks scary. Black's king is wide open, right? However, white only has the queen. And black has lots of pieces to come up there and defend. And you may think, okay, it's only a little material advantage, 1 pawn essentially. White's got 2 pawns for the piece. However, this is totally lost for white, I would say. I mean, maybe practical game, really, if black plays right, it's totally lost for white because there's just no way to bring up new attackers if black's careful. Black's going to also have a target here, and he's going to bring his pieces over to the king side and start attacking white there. He's going to get his queen up, bring his rooks over, and put them on the F and the G files, and start aiming at white's thing. And then he has an extra piece to do it also. So that's really bad for white. But, okay, so he played queen h3 check. His queen was under attack. King g7, that's good. Okay, getting the king up there. And now queen g4. And here, Arjun allowed white some chance. He made a kind of strange move, king f7. He wanted to get out of this pin, but the king is not very safe over there in the middle like that. It's not terrible because white still stands much worse. But do you see a good way? I mean, white plans to play h4 or f4 or something to attack the bishop, which is pinned. So what do you see that black could do though here? Anyone see a strong active move that would gain time and stop white's plans? Rook f4, yeah. So this move looks real good for black. I mean, black gets the rook in with gain of time. And now there's nothing happening. Maybe queen here, or even just take the pawn, which also, do you see what that threatens? What does that threaten, Arjun? Knight to e2, and then black just takes over the game here. So rook f4 is practically just a deadly move. You know, it's going to be white that's going to be under attack in a moment and down a piece. But okay, so king f7. Oops. Now f4, okay, so white's trying what he can. Bishop h6. Okay, whatever. I mean, maybe, well, okay, bishop h6. Personally, I would rather have the bishop on f6 where it's aimed at d4. But I don't know, maybe white has a draw like this. No, can come back to g8 and then block with the bishop. If white checks again, block with the bishop. And if white checks here, then rook f7. And here, black's king is all covered, and this pawn is going to fall. So that looks pretty. I mean, I would rather have the bishop on f6 than on h6. Okay, so bishop h6, though, it went to queen h5. Okay, king g7. And now, because black lost a little bit of time, white gets the rook in. Okay, but still very good for black. Rook f3, threatening rook g3. And then this bishop would, like if white could move again, it would be rook g3, king h7, queen g6 check. So Arjun saw that and anticipated it with king h7, okay. Rook g3, threatening queen g6 again, and queen f6. So very good, all out of defenders around the black king. If black's careful, white shouldn't win, shouldn't have anything at all. Finally, white developed this knight, okay. Queen at d4 check, king h1, and here, I know that like this is a winning position for black, but in a practical game, it's kind of tricky because your king's open and there's, you know, I don't know, I've seen lots of games where someone might screw up in a situation like this. Especially white wants to bring the knight, white has a plan to bring the knight to g5. The black king is kind of cut off on the g file here. White has a plan to go knight f3, knight g5 check. and looks very dangerous. And it's easy when you're playing a game to your head starts spinning and everything. But it's best to keep calm and say, okay, he wants to bring the knight there. I'll remove its support. And after after king h1, just queen takes f4. And what does white have here? What can white do? The knight's under attack here.
Rook to d1.
Well, okay, but rook to d1. First of all, I mean, what am I afraid of? Then there might, yeah, I can take on d2 because queen g6 check king h8 and still nothing here, right? So that's that's what would same thing if white did that right away, queen g6. Huh? Well, there's a mate on f1, so queen takes d2 is a good because mate if white takes is typical. Rook takes d2, rook f1, and also queen g6 immediately doesn't do anything. Knight f3. Now I suppose rook. Yeah. Well, maybe now rook to g8. And what does white have? So okay, so instead white went oops, king h1, rook g8, knight f3, and now it's real important that you be watching what white's playing. He's playing knight g5 check. He's also playing rook e1. So can you take on f4 though? I still don't see exactly what white's doing here. It looks a little bit scary, but what's white's plan? What's white gonna do? Knight g5, you take it, right? So it was real important to get that pawn. Queen takes b2, I think this was a real big mistake, and maybe it should lose the game because now the queen's too far away, and suddenly rook e1, and now this rook is about to come up to e6, and there's so many attackers around the black king. So it was a big difference to get the queen over there and get the pieces around the king. But okay, rook e1, now black took on g3, h takes g3, and I don't know what defense black has. I don't know how you can defend this position because now white king is totally safe. There's no more targets, and there's no way that I can see to bring up defenders really. Like if black goes queen f6, do you see a good move for white here? Anyone see a good move for white? Yeah, rook e6. This is a real strong move because if queen takes, then what? Knight g5. Good, nice tactic. And so then black, queen there, but then comes knight g5 check, and then rook takes h6, and black is busted. So if queen to g7 right away, then again, I suppose rook e6, and I don't know how black can stop knight, because this bishop is real bad here. It's stuck, and now knight to g5 is coming. So queen takes g3 doesn't help because h6 is hanging, for one thing. Anyway, so even better would be to probably even better is this, forcing mate quickly, or black has to go up the queen. Okay, so rook e1, black played king g7, and rook e6. Now there's only one thing I can see that black can try. Do you see one problem with white position? Anyone see? I mean, it looks terrifying for black. h6 is hanging. There's nowhere for this bishop to go. Arjun played rook h8, which is a natural move, but then comes checkmate in 2. Oops, not that move, but this one. So this was pretty. I think it was a pretty instructive game because there's a lot of points where there's a lot of games where somebody might sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns, and it's not really sound, but it seems like so dangerous. But the key is, first of all, get your pieces over to defend and trade off the attackers. So you can see that in this game. Sorry, a little bit sick. Okay, I thought, well, we have about 18 minutes left. I thought I'd show you, it's not maybe quite long enough, but I'll show you a little bit faster version, some game I played, which is kind of entertaining. This was a Blitz game, which I played a long time ago. Okay, so I played E4. This was it was in a tournament. It was a Blitz tournament, but a long time ago. So
Is that the Sicilian Open?
yeah, this is a Sicilian Defense, and I was white. I played the open Sicilian, okay, and he played the Najdorf. This is the Najdorf. Anyone know what this is? The idea is, okay, if black wants to play E5, if he does it right away, it allows this check. And this is kind of a problem because if black trades off the bishops, then this square here on D5 doesn't have very many defenders. Black's left with this bishop there. Okay. Meanwhile, if the knight blocks, then comes knight F5, and this pawn's under attack, and also the knight can later on retreat there and try to use this outpost square. So A6 was invented in the middle of the 20th century, around sometime in the 40s, I guess. First of all, it's kind of a waiting move, but second of all, after bishop E2, black can now play E5. And then he has this hole, but he gains a lot of space and gains time, and the knight's not so well placed on B3. So that's the Najdorf. But I played now bishop C4, and here black shouldn't really play E5, most likely because the bishop's aimed at that D5 square. So he played this, and I went here, anticipating a possible attack on the bishop. So black might go here. This is one of the moves. He chose to just play that, and because this move is a little bit quieter, it doesn't put pressure on the center, I can play this move. You see what the idea of this is? Looks kind of crazy, right? What do you think? Yeah, I want to attack the knight. So for one thing, when black castles, if black castles, that's going to provide chances for an attack. But it's not just that, it's also that I'm chasing this knight away from guarding a key square D5 and from attacking the pawn on E4. So black might stop the pawn from advancing, but then is he going to want to castle later? That's going to make it very hard for him to castle, because I'm going to castle queenside, that's for sure. I probably play, I forgot, I've had this several times, but I'll probably play something like, I think I played different things in different games, Queen E2 and maybe Bishop E3, I don't know, but I'm going to castle queenside, but this move H6 makes it real hard for him to castle kingside, because then I can play G5 and open files instantly, because it'll come into contact with this pawn on H6. Yeah, I'll leave the rook, of course, on H1. I might play H4 and then G5. I might play G5 straight away, but in any case, it would be dangerous for the king to be over there. So but H6 still, black leaves the king in the center, but it keeps the knight on F6. So that's, and if he doesn't castle, it's not easy for me to go G5, because I'll have my own weaknesses then. But he didn't go H6. He played a little bit risky move. He castled. So he castles into the attack, but he hopes to, okay, the king will be safe for enough time that a counterattack will happen in the rest of the board. G5, knight D7, and now I think I played rook G1 first. I don't remember if it was queen. Okay, I'd say I played queen H5. I played those two moves, and it doesn't really matter the order, but anyway, queen H5. So I'm bringing my queen out. I'm going to maybe castle queenside. Okay, he played B5. So he wants to bring the bishop here. His ideal thing to have happen would be bishop B7, B4, and then bishop takes E4, which will defend the H7 pawn then. He'll have a solid defender, bishop on G6 later on. So he's putting pressure on my E4 two different ways. One directly by bishop B7, and one indirectly by trying to attack the knight, which guards it. I really have to hurry here, because if my center collapses, I won't get anywhere with my attack on the king side, and I'll have a bad position. But it's a pretty dangerous attack. So how would you continue here? Oh, I kind of told you. Yeah, I did actually kind of tell you that rook to g1. So the idea is I'm going to lift my rook up and over. It's real caveman-like, but that's what this position calls for. I mean, I mean, there's another way to play h4, h5, and g6 to try to attack there, but it's too slow, I think, here. Maybe possible, I don't know. But okay, b5, rook g1. Now he went b4, so he's asking, is my knight gonna, where's my knight gonna go? So what should I do? What do you think? This is a real sharp position. He's hoping my knight moves, wherever, okay, oops. Then he goes bishop there, attacking the pawn. Now I have to waste time with this move, and now maybe he starts getting in d5, maybe even right away, or maybe knight here first. And now there's threats against this pawn in some cases, and d5 coming up, blowing open the center. And am I going to get a chance to checkmate him in that case? I'm going to be dealing with stuff happening against my own king right away. So the key is a counterattack in the center is important. So I have to be really forceful here. So I played the move rook g3. I ignored the knight. Now remember, this is a blitz game, so I'm kind of just going by intuition. You have 5 minutes per side. So I calculated lines, of course, but it's mostly going by intuition. So for instance, if he takes here, I need to show why I'm able to do this. So what do you think white would do now? I need to destroy the king side somehow and get my attack going, and it has to be a big attack because I'm down a piece. All right, rook h3 is a natural move. It threatens there, but then he goes here. And then if, oops. And then if takes, now this move. Push the pawn, okay, but he's very happy that pawn is there, as is often the case. And now my pieces are being forced back and I'm down a piece, and I got nowhere. But think about this position. This would be crushing if he didn't have an f7 pawn there. So that's why I would have made a preliminary sacrifice. Knight takes. Right? And then if pawn takes, I check, king there, and now I do this. Okay? So he has to play h6. There's no other way to stop mate because after knight there, I just take it. So he has to play h6. But now what do I do? What do you think? Very good, queen g6. I don't want to take this pawn because you see what black would do? Yeah, he pushes pawn, right? And now I can't get in. I can't get into the king side. I could go here, but he could defend like this or something like that. And now white's not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to be able to checkmate him, and I'm down too much. My position collapsing everywhere, 2 pieces down. So, but after queen g6, black has no defense. I'm threatening. What do you see what I'm threatening? I'm threatening actually a couple of things, but rook h6 is the most immediate threat because it's the most forcing. And after he takes, I'll take with my queen and checkmate. I'm also threatening, of course, to take with the pawn, which will also be crushing. But I mean, like if knight to e5, then this is crucial. Takes, checkmate. And if he takes here, then this move. And now again, the queen can't take because it's pinned. I would just win the queen that way. So that's what would happen if he took the knight. I'm going to skip what would happen if he went queen a5 because that's another story. But basically, I take the rook, and he just discovered check and makes a second queen. But then I checkmate queen f7 and queen g8. But we don't have as much time left. So he didn't take the knight. He played this move, which is goes like 2,000. But this is, he quickly played this move, just an intuition, clearing the f8 square for his knight. And if his knight gets to f8, I'm going to have problems because I can't. I mean, maybe I won't have problems, but at least my attack won't be getting through. So now, rook h3, knight f8. Nothing going through with that knight on f8. It's a great defender. So what I did was the same sacrifice. Knight takes e6. This is real typical sacrifice in Sicilian. So black has to take the knight, because if queen moves for, somewhere, then, for instance, knight takes g7 is crushing, bringing a queen to f7 threat into it. So he took the knight. Bishop takes. Now king can't go this way because of mate, right? So king goes there, and now, does anyone see what I might do here? Here, rook h3, knight f8 doesn't get anywhere, so because the rook is on e8, so it's not the same as the last position. Queen h7, okay, but I have to look ahead because it's not as simple as it seems. This is a really natural sacrifice, though. But what's funny is that, of course, it doesn't have the normal kind of follow-up which you would expect. But whenever you have the king cut off in the corner like this, rook ready to come over, this move should be, learning these kind of patterns is key to becoming a good chess player. But here you have to, it's more than just the obvious. Now what does white do? Okay, pushing the pawn looks natural, but now what? But now black has this move. White's down at too much. There's no follow-up here. So that's not what I had, I had to see this from the beginning, what I was going to be doing now. Yeah, of course white has to continue with tempo, has to continue with forcing moves. Okay, black has only go there, right? Now what? Yeah, it's easy to calculate this because if white pauses in most positions, it's going to be, black will have a chance to defend. Yeah, that's the only place to go with the king. Now what? G6. Okay, now he can't go back here because of mate, rook h8, right? And he can't go here because, oops, sorry. He can't go to g8 because, you see what? Bishop e6, king f8, and now again rook h8, right? So he has to go up to f6. Now what do you think? Pretty natural move, right? Next move. Knight to d5. And bring that knight into this juicy central square. But here's the key point. When we're chasing the king, well, black has no pieces out, basically. Before, we had to keep going, or else maybe they could bring some defender. He could bring some defenders over. But here, you got to remember when you're chasing, like, how does white continue here? How's white going to finish this up? Okay, bishop f4, he keeps running. Now what? He's going to escape somehow over here to b5 and go back into some corner over here on b7 and then win. So sometimes when you're chasing the opponent's king, you don't want to let him, sometimes you need to just not blindly chase him, but you need to cut off the escape instead. Yeah, rook d3 is good. That's not what I played, but it's even, you could say, better, because this cuts the king off and forces, next is f4 or bishop f4. And if black goes here, then f4 takes checkmate. Okay, the way I did it was c3, which takes a move longer because after black takes, I take back, and that's extra move, but still the same thing, right? Bishop g5, f4, and then he resigned because if takes, bishop takes, and there's no other defense. Now bishop e3 wouldn't work really because, or I guess it wouldn't quite work because again now bishop g5, f4, and this is not as good because the king again runs away. So, yeah, rook to d3, c3. There's even the move b3 is also clever, but I didn't, so I just played c3 because I just know I need to cover d4. But yeah, rook to d3 is, and so c3 takes, and bishop g5, f4, and then if takes, then bishop takes, and it's checkmate. So this is a simple game to show this funny game to. If I played in a tournament game, I would have definitely calculated it out. But intuition told me in the Blitz game that there had to be mate. I mean, I saw all this. I saw that him, and then when I got to this position, okay. I mean, I knew it was going to be a mate. When I got to the position, I said, okay, c3, and then, so, you know, it'd take long to find c3, or rook d3 is better.